Okay, so let's get started, you guys. I just want to start out with just sharing a little bit of my story, and then from there jump into, I kind of have my outline here. I'm going to talk about basically just how to run a successful direct sales business like LuLaRoe, and I am keeping this kind of general for the purpose of YouTube, but it will be specific to LuLaRoe. So my story, I actually am a therapist by trade. I have my master's in counseling, and I have a small part-time private practice out of the home. So I have an office remote from my home that I go to see clients. I mostly do marriage counseling. Oh, thanks, Amy. Perfect. Hand raised is under the more. Okay, so because I'm curious, you guys, if you want a hand raise for me, how many of you are married? Are all of you? Hand raise. Hand raise. Oh, I see your hands. Yay! Since I've muted you. Okay, so some are not. Tell me. Now, everybody put your hands down. Can you guys find it? Can you find the hand raise? I know, I'm interactive, and I think that this is important in your business. It's the most important thing in your business. Married. Okay. Who has, actually I should say, who's not married? There are a few on here that aren't. Next question though. Next question, hands down. Next question is, how many of you have kids? Who have kids? Oh, I see Liz's hand up in the video. That's awesome. Okay, so about half of us. Okay, so because I want to be responsive. Your first baby came in February. Congratulations, Laura. Okay, so my second baby came in March, so we have babies close together. Here's the deal. So my story, I'm going to stick with that, and then I'm going to do a little counseling talk, and then we're going to go into business stuff, because the counselor in me really wants, I think that leads into the business success and how I've had such great success with LuLaRoe. So my story is this. I've done direct sales for a decade, over 12 years. I sold jewelry for 12 years, and LuLaRoe came into the picture. It's been probably close to a year ago. And I actually bought LuLaRoe years ago, because if you're a direct seller, you support everybody else. And so I did vendor events, and I bought some black leggings when they were easy to get. So I had a pair of black leggings and a black and gray striped Irma for years, but it obviously was not something on my radar at that point. But about okay, so I feel like I'm rambling, but my story was, I was with a direct sales company for 10 years, and I was hitting it hard. I was doing great, and I was their number one seller 2 months before they closed their doors. So we were abruptly notified Christmas of 2014 that our business was closing down, and that we had 28 days to wrap up our business, and I was devastated. And yeah, look where I'm at now. It's such a better spot. But I learned so much from that I want to share with you guys, because I think that's part of my success too, and sort of the reality talk of being an entrepreneur, being in a business that fluctuates, and how to handle that, and how to be successful with your mindset. So long story short, with my direct sales career, I jumped, another jewelry company recruited me, and within a few months, I was very successful in that company. Earned a trip for 4 to Disney World in 4 months it was, how most direct sales companies do trips and awards and things like that. And so it took off. And then around the time that Ellie, my daughter, was born, which was March of last year, my business started to tank. And I had done at that point 12 years of direct sales. And so you know what you need to do, right? You know how to book parties, you know how to sell the product. It's just a matter of mindset and doing your job. And at one point it felt like, okay, this is supernatural. And so that's another part of my story that's very important to me. My faith is really important to me. And I felt like in that season, I just felt God say, be still. And so I took a sabbatical. I told my VIP community, I'm reassessing and I'm supposed to step away and just be with my family. Long story short, during that season, LuLaRoe came into, well, it was kind of already there. I had bought some stuff because I wasn't losing the baby weight and I liked the product, but I was like, there's no way in the world I would ever bring hundreds of pieces of inventory into my home. When you've done jewelry for a decade, that's like a one trip from the car. So to go from one trip to now a dozen trips and inventory overrunning your house is like, there's no way. And I came up with every excuse in the book. But in that season, it was really sort of a rediscovering myself and my purpose and who I am, because it just felt like everything was stripped away. And I think that's going to be very important for you as you figure out who you are and what you're about, not just with LuLaRoe, but with life and as a mom and as a wife and as a person set here on earth, and what your purpose is. And that period was really dark because I felt like I was going through a midlife crisis, and I'm only in my 30s, but it felt like all these things that I've done, what does it really mean? And who really are you? And it was all being stripped away from me at that point, I felt like. And then in sort of that period of being still, I felt again, God say, healing hearts is what you do. And so that's been sort of my, and it all ties in for me, but with the counseling thing and all of that. And I kind of rolled my eyes at God and was like, well, I know that, but what, what do you want me to do? And so, that is how, I have sort of found my core purpose in life, aside from LuLaRoe and what I do as a retailer. So I will encourage you to find that purpose, that core thing that no matter what happens in your LuLaRoe business, whether it's up or down, you know who you are and what you're made to do, and everything else will sort of rock your world a little bit less. It's not that we don't have these ups and downs and that you compare yourself and you worry about being successful, but finding that, and in LuLaRoe land, we talk about your why that makes you cry. What is your purpose? And a lot of that is framed in LuLaRoe, but I'll encourage you to take that beyond LuLaRoe, because I have experienced a direct sales company crash, and I don't think LuLaRoe will have that experience, or you will go through that with LuLaRoe. But if it were to ever happen, who are you beyond your identity as a LuLaRoe retailer and as an entrepreneur? So that has been a huge part in my success with LuLaRoe, is finding just this peace and this confidence about no matter what happens with my business, I know my mission in life. And so with that healing hearts thing, it sort of expanded, and I told God, like, I don't want to do anything that doesn't involve the support of my husband, because you guys all know that can be really detrimental in your business if your husband is not on board with you, or if you are having balance issues with managing your business and how time consuming it is, and balancing your family and all of the other hats that you wear. So my prayer in that season was, if I'm supposed to do this, please have it be something my husband wants more than I want, because I wanted it at that point, but it was a patience and waiting on the timing of that, and waiting on the support of my husband, and accepting sort of the questions and the criticisms and not getting defensive about it. So for those of you, I know Donna and I just talked, and her husband has great questions for her, but in that season of just really looking at, in a sort of neutral mindset of a business person and not getting emotionally tied into things, really was important for sort of the layout of our business and what our plans were. So that leads me into sort of your plan and your purpose with your business. So my husband and I had long talks about how to make a business like this successful. He's actually getting his master's in business administration. He's 2 classes away, and he also is a manager here in town of the cancer center and the health network of all the doctors tied to our hospital. So he has a lot of just really nuts and bolts, practical, like, this is how you run a business, get your heart out of it. Because as women, that's what we do, right? You get emotional about stuff and things aren't going right, and you want to buy more inventory, but you don't have the grounds to buy more inventory, or you know, whatever, you want to do what the other person is doing, but it might not make business sense with what your model is, what your strategy is, and then you get derailed from your business plan because we have these hearts that pull us all over in every direction. So I've lost my outline and I'm rambling, sorry. so yes, your sort of vision and your goals for your business are going to differ, and accepting that and not comparing yourself with Allie or with Becky or with whoever, and trusting that your story is just as powerful as my story, and that your plan is just as important as my plan or anybody else's in terms of what you are accomplishing with your business. And it might be because you need out of the house twice a week or once a week, or 3 times a month, whatever it is, or 3 times a week, I don't know, because you need the sanity hour from your kids or whatever. And it's not because you're going to run a full-on retail shop in your basement like me. I don't know that I was expecting that right away, but it definitely, I'm sitting in my basement right now, and it is definitely a lot of clothes. My dad came down here today and he was like, wow, this place is packed to the gills with clothes. So not feeling like you need to be that person, though. You can run a successful business with 800 pieces and move, they say 1/10, so that you would move 80 pieces a week, right? If you had an 800 piece inventory. If you want to move 150 pieces a week, you should probably plan on a 1,500 piece inventory. And don't quote me on this stuff, but you guys are all over the internet and training with your teams and things, so you can research sort of inventory management and what you need to be doing to be successful. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I am going to jump from that into sort of buying into the culture of LuLaRoe. And I think that that's why this company has experienced such exponential growth, is because of the culture, which is backwards from the culture of most corporate companies out there, which is this sort of giver mentality rather than this get mentality. So the first book that I read in the queue while I was waiting to get my inventory was The Go Giver. I actually listened to it, and it was so backwards from everything I had experienced for a dozen years in direct sales, because it really was this elbowing your way to the top, and what status are you, and how much did you sell, and how many people do you have on your team, and really this go-getter mentality. And LuLaRoe hammers into us this go-giver mentality, and this mentality of help each other out and be generous. And there's a piece of the pie for everyone that wants one that will work for it. And if you don't buy into that, I'm going to challenge you to really take a hard look at yourself and at why. And I know that's the counselor in me, and that's when you come to my counseling office when people don't like me, because I say the things that people don't want to hear, but they need to be heard. And if you've not read The Go Giver, go get it for free from your library. You can download it on your iPad for most libraries and just listen to it for free. It's a super quick read or listen. And it humbled me. It shifted my mentality and made me really look at, Becky, really, you do have these selfish tendencies. You really do have this competitive drive in you that needs to be examined. And so not that that's a bad thing, because I think entrepreneurs and business people there is, it does take drive, and it does take effort, and it does take strategy, but it does not require you to elbow people out of the way along your way up the ladder. And realizing that by being kind and generous, you actually can get further than if you think you need to elbow your way there. So really, I was again going through some of the things that even LuLaRoe sends us. And did you guys, are most of you already LuLaRoe consultants? I don't know if we have some people who are considering or who are in the queue. But you get this in your little welcome box. And in the very second tab, the Culture of Lularoe, when you start having down days, I want you to get this thing out and study it. And go watch Simon Sinek and this, the 7 C's of Trust. This, for me, also, I will attribute a lot of this to my success with that confidence piece. And so I'm not going to act like I know all this stuff, but the 7 C's of Trust are, you can you see this at all, you guys? This circle, the circle of trust. Have you guys trained on this, Allie? Have you guys talked about this at all? Or anybody else? But it talks about outside of this circle, there's cynicism, self-interest, danger, paranoia, mistrust. And on the inner circle, and it goes through all of these things in detail, but pull this out and study it, and then go, I don't know if you can Google it and pull it up, because I've not Googled it recently, but Simon Sinek, I think, has a talk on this. And but basically it talks about conviction and consistency and cohesion, chemistry, credibility, conditions of the environment. So for me, because I had that core who you are, why so solidified for me, I could trust myself. I could trust that I knew, even though I'm different, even though I'm not like perfectly make-upped and hair done, that who I am is enough, and what I offer is important, and that I can be successful just like Michelle Driver can be successful, or Ali Wing can be successful. And if you don't believe that, that's your first homework, is really getting yourself to a place where, I say in my counseling office to people all the time, and just life in general stuff, doing some self-growth work to get yourself to a place, and saying, I feed them mantras and all these different things about I'm a lovable, capable, worthwhile human being, and different, things that where you get to a place where you truly believe that about yourself, you're going to be successful. And then the nuts and the bolts of how you do it, the tools that I give you, the things that I say to do, you'll have the confidence to do. You'll say, I can do that. I can be like Allie. She's doing styling appointments. I can put outfits together and do styling appointments. Or, I need to go book a pop-up. I need to go talk to a barista at Starbucks. I can do that. I'm not afraid of a no, because who I am is enough. I am capable and lovable and a worthwhile human being. Those things that you've kind of, the conviction that you hold about who you are. So that's my counselor talk. But embrace the culture of LuLaRoe, study it, and get out of the places where you compare yourself and you get negative. I can tell you, I know the people who I compare myself to and I get hung up on. There are some girls, not in my city, I'm in Wyoming, but across the mountain from me, who have been in the business twice as long as me, but they're, you get in that place where you want to be them. And I know I can't put my head in that place. So I leave those groups, and I just have to turn it off and just follow my arrow and trust that who I am is enough. And, if if I'm wasting all this emotional and mental energy going, what is she doing? I want to be like her, not in a positive, motivating way, like Michelle Driver and Allie are for me, then I need to leave that because it's sucking my energy and it's making me not who I am supposed to be. So that's the other part of this, is being you and not being the other LuLaRoe girls who you see being successful. You want to emulate them, but you don't want to be them. I can't be Allie. Allie was designed in a different way than I was designed. I can't be Michelle Driver because she's not me. I have different strengths and gifts and talents and personality and traits and life experiences that make me me, that people will want to follow. And other people won't want to. And I have to embrace that. I mean, my mom always told me as a kid, Becky, 50% of the world's not going to like you. Get over it. So, I mean, that's really not a really nice way to say it. And she didn't say it like that, but you really have to embrace that that's okay. And not everybody is going to like you. And if you're spending all your time trying to get them to like you, you're never who you are. And you never create that loyal following of people who love you and love who you are when you show your real self. So that's my counseling talk for you guys tonight a little bit. And then jumping into how to work this business or any other direct sales business for that matter. The very first thing, as a counselor, of course, I'm going to say this, but the very first thing is what I've been hammering about, knowing who you are. But the second thing is building relationships. And now I'm an introvert. I call myself an ambivert because I can be extroverted in social situations and look like I'm an extrovert, but really I prefer to be alone and at home, and I get my energy from being away from people or with my core people, my kids and my husband. So if you're like me, you know that the social requirements of a business like this will drain you. So you have to find ways to recharge your batteries and draw your boundaries so that you can be successful in the business. But introverts can be very successful at this, but you have to know yourself and know your giftings and know what you're going to naturally try to avoid. So it's that whole concept of eating the frog and doing the things that you least like to do, which is to have a conversation, say to somebody when they compliment you on your top, oh, it's LuLaRoe, have you heard of it? No, I haven't. Oh, it's a clothing company that I rep or that I am a retailer for or whatever. You have to not just say, oh, thanks, and walk away. You actually have to push yourself out of your introverted shell and have a conversation, and not genuine, but push yourself beyond that envelope. Oh, if I don't want to be pushy, or I don't want them to judge me, or I don't want them to think I'm trying to recruit them or whatever. So the relationships piece is going to be the biggest part of being successful, is really truly getting people to be loyal to you and to like you. And you do that by being you and being genuine and taking care of people and giving good customer service and embracing who you are. So, and then the second thing about any broad thing in this business, direct sales business, is being consistent. So you're never going to build a business if you decide to take a day off here, a week off there. I don't really have a strategy to when I'm taking time off, or on what nights I want to book, or how many parties I want to book. You've got to have your goals clear, your strategy clear, and be consistent about it. And so if I have a flop party and I only sell 5 pieces of clothes, and my goal was 20 pieces a day or 20 pieces per party, I have to do something to make up for that loss. If you want to be successful, you've got to find ways to make your goals happen and be consistent. So you guys have heard what you need to do, to get on Periscope or to get on a live or to book an extra pop-up in the following week or offer some extra incentive or do a drop-in and shop. You've heard all these things probably. So it's having those plan Bs and those ways to make up for when you're getting behind on your goals, not to freak out and to say, oh, woe is me, life life is awful. I can't be successful at this business, because mindset is the number one thing that's going to make you successful in this business. But motivating yourself to, heck, I only sold 5. I'm going to sell 50 this week then. And instead of having a pity party, kind of challenging yourself to buck up and do more, and not let things get you down. Because to be honest, you guys, I've only been doing this for 4 months. I have experienced loading my clothing out in the truck in rain and having a flight of stairs up and down both ways, loading it in, selling 5 pieces of clothes and going back home. So, or even less. So it happens to the number one seller last month on our team. You will have setbacks. You will have learning opportunities. You will have flop parties that you have to go back and explain to your husband and have him be like, I just watched the kids for 3 hours for what? And not let that make you want to quit the business. I mean, it does. Let's be honest. You have those moments of, am I doing the right thing? Am I where I'm supposed to be? That goes back to knowing your why and knowing who you are and having a conviction about, I won't let the emotion of this moment, the discouragement of this moment, determine 6 months or 6 years down the road for me. What can I learn from this? And what can I do the next time? And sometimes there is no formula. Sometimes you think you're going to walk into a party and it's going to be fabulous, and they've held fabulous parties for you before, and then you show up and there are 5 people show up. So you really can't predict those things, but how you handle them is going to determine your success. So I feel like I've been talking for a really long time, because it's already been half an hour. I kind of want to open it up a little bit to questions. If you guys have questions, you can unmute yourselves, and I would be happy to answer questions. And I can go into just a little bit of my strategy and what's working for me. I guess I'll do that really quick before you guys unmute yourself. So when I was in the queue, I made great use of that time. I created a blog, which in terms of your marketing and your funnel strategy, they say like a website like that is your biggest catch. So to funnel it on down. So I'm funneling people into my Facebook group. I'm funneling people into my Instagram. I'm funneling people to go look at YouTube and those sorts of things. And then getting them into your VIP shopping group is where you want them to be, of course, to buy your product and to, at least for me, that's where I wanted them to be. You could want them to be somewhere else, but I wanted them to be in my shopping group on Facebook, because that's where I do the bulk of my online sales and marketing. But I have most of my business is in person. And I determined that when I did this business, like any other company that goes through the product innovation curve, when you talk about LuLaRoe is probably last year in terms of skyrocketing growth. And then you start leveling off for the next wave of growth. So, a few years ago it was Jamberry and everything was crazy with Jamberry. And then before after that, well, right now it's LipSense, I think, so it really, I knew I'm not going to ride this wave up and then crash and have it be done and I fall off and do a going out of business sale, because I'm one of those people that thinks it's easy to do this. It's hard to do this, you guys. This is a lot of work, and I'm not going to lie to anybody and say, all you got to do is create a Periscope and a Facebook group and you can sell it just like everybody else can sell it. Nope, you can't. And you will not survive that way. You're going to have a dead, sick, stale pond of people because you're not creating new blood in there all the time. You're not getting people in person to see your inventory. Your inventory is bland and like blah to you because you've seen it for the last 6 months. But when you go to a vendor event and you have new people there who have never seen your product, they're going to ooh and ah over that thing that you hate that's been sitting there for 6 months, because it's fresh eyes. That's what we talk about all the time, right? You need fresh eyes on your inventory. Well, how are you going to get fresh eyes if you're on Facebook all the time thinking, I can pull all these other LuLaRoe addicts from all these other LuLaRoe groups, and they've seen all these prints before, right? So you got to get people who haven't heard of LuLaRoe, and there are tons of people who haven't heard of LuLaRoe, you guys. This company is only 4 years old. But people, when we hear, 70,000 consultants or whatever it is, that is a drop in the ocean, you guys. And this is maybe mean talk, but you gotta have some mental fortitude to be able to withstand the pruning process that's going on right now. So there's a lot of people leaving the company and whatever else. And I say, prune them out, because that's when growth happens. The people who are going to ride the wave up and think they were going to be successful, and I'm not here to hurt feelings or to bash anybody who had that thought, but now comes where the rubber meets the road, and you really have to have a plan and pound the pavement. And you guys know, if you're on the update calls with Deanne and things like that, with the weekly update calls, she's going to, even today, what did she talk about the entire time? Pop-up parties, in-person parties is where it's at. You have got to build relationships. And the counselor in me says a human face-to-face hug, contact, compliment, touch them, style them, pull in the Carly and nod it on the side for them. That when you touch another human being, they bond with you. You need to have these human contact interactions where you physically hand somebody their clothing and you give them a hug, or you say, eye to eye, no internet in between, you're beautiful, you look gorgeous. That's where you create your business and your loyalty and the people who will follow you fiercely, and where your business will grow, because that's what's happening with me. And these people are bringing people into my group. Some of my best customers, I don't know, but their friends know me and their friends love me. And then they want to be with me because their friends love and trust me. And so you can grow an online community. So I'm doing both online, organically growing, and in person. So I do Tuesday, Thursday pop-ups in my home, and I host people into the basement boutique. And then I am willing to take the inventory out on the weekends, although sometimes I don't. They'll still host here at my house, but that is when people who want to book out of my home, I will load it up in the truck and take it out, which is a lot of... Oh, go ahead. Liz, did you...
Obviamente él va a seguir, es lo que también me dijo, y dice que se enteró en la mañanita, mañanita, pero no me dijo luego.
I'm gonna mute her back. Sorry, you guys. Were you trying to talk to me, Liz? I don't think she was. Okay, I muted her back. Sorry. Unmute yourself if you meant to talk to me, but I don't speak in the language I was hearing. So, where was I, you guys? This is my first Zoom call. You guys can tell I'm so easily distracted. Like, wait, hold on, what? Yes, Tuesday, Thursday, in-home pop-ups. Weekends, I'd go out, and then I'm willing to travel out, and I will do vendor events. I'm constantly looking for vendor opportunities. I just put in a vendor application for a street fair one night. It's called Third Thursday in our town here, and every third Thursday in the months through the summer, there's a vendor event down the main street of our city. So doing those kinds of things and booking pop-ups from pop-ups, organically growing your business, is where you're going to find success. So that's my every single date that I want in March is full. April, and March was too. I don't know what month we're on because I've been running myself crazy. Oh, and on Saturdays, I always do a drop-in and shop. So Saturdays, and that's that whole consistency thing. I also do a post every beginning of every week, where's Becky, and I make a graphic that is mine. I don't pull anything from anywhere. So that's another way of branding yourself. And I will tell you, girls, that matters. You have got to take a course on branding yourself, creating in PicMonkey, or however you want to do it, your own social media graphics. Because even here in town, my town is probably only, I was telling Donna, 500,000 people in the state of Wyoming. So my community alone is 12,000 people, and there's 4 other LuLaRoe girls here who sell. But I have girls come to me and they kind of pull me aside and they're like, I work with so-and-so and I feel kind of guilty, but I want to work with you. I want to shop with you, or I would want to join your team. And I'm always curious, well, why? Why do you feel like you need to come to me? I mean, you work with so-and-so. And this one gal in particular last week was like, because you look like you're with it. And you guys, I'm a hot mess. I am not with it. I am not always organized. But from my branding standpoint, from what they see on social media, it's consistent. My graphics are mine. I'm not pulling memes and pixelated pictures and here and there and mishmash and trying to mirror what everybody else is doing and trying to be not me. I will get to styling appointments. I will get to these different things. But when you're trying to do, oh, I want to do grab bags like so-and-so, and I want to do giveaways like so-and-so, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. Your community is like, whoa, wow, ugh, you're making me sick here because I can't keep up with what you're trying to do. So having your strategy and your plan in place, my community knows, and people will message me, Becky, are you doing your drop-in and shop this weekend? Sorry, no, I actually am doing a vendor event, and I'm going to be at Get Out and Shop at the Wesleyan Church, not at my house. So come see me there. And my community knows now. I had another girl say, I look for your graphic every week so I know where you're at and which parties at your boutique I can crash. And I ask my hostesses when they host here, can I announce this to my VIPs so they can come crash your party and support your party if they want to shop this week. But think about creating some consistency. And if you do mostly online, create consistency in your online presence. You do, total request live Tuesdays or Thursdays, or I saw one today, why is this still here Wednesday? So on Wednesdays, she's doing her favorite items in a live sale, the things that she doesn't, I'm like, oh, I need to start incorporating this. But the thing is, incorporate things in your time. I have a notebook and I put all those things in my notebook, and then I sit down with my month and I look at, what is my focus for this month? Am I building my Instagram following? Am I working on YouTube videos this month? Am I really working on my live presence on Periscope or Facebook or in-home parties and building in-home pop-up relationships? You'll get to those things, but when you try and, what's the saying? You can be master at nothing when you're trying to be everything, so focus on what you're going to focus on. And don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Do what you need to do, and you can incorporate those other things in time. So, okay, I think that in terms of, my strategy and my business and kind of how I run my day-to-day, I've covered. So what questions do you guys have? I put y'all to sleep.
Becky, can you touch on your blog since PNP is really particular about this subject?
Yeah, so my blog is very generic. It's beckyhealinghearts.com. And it's sort of a combination of, my life, my mom life, my counselor life, and then fashion and my blog posts and things like that. You can have LuLaRoe stuff there, but in terms of, I don't have a join now button in certain things. You just need to read through the policies and procedures and know what you can and can't do with your blog so you don't get shut down. I wouldn't let that scare you away from doing a blog. And no matter what I do in life, my blog will be relevant because I have done fashion, and the sort of the message of my blog will be there regardless of what I do, So think about that when you're creating a blog. Create it for you beyond what you're doing as a LuLaRoe retailer right now. Does that answer? Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And then with the people that are coming to your house, how do you market that for like the drop-in shops, for example? And then how are you booking parties and convincing them to come to you as opposed to you go to them? Because we're starting to try to get that underway now that we actually have a space that's presentable.
You do? That's exciting.
Finally.
Okay. Well, mine, it's part of that whole thing about being at peace with who you are and what you have, because I don't have a Lula house in the back of my house. You know, it's my basement and it's lived in and it's not perfect and they have to walk through my upstairs to get downstairs, but it's that relationship piece and being you and being real. I mean, my house, I pick it up. I would not encourage you to have it be a disaster, but don't be afraid to let people see you and come to your house. So marketing for it takes time. My first pop-up, my first drop-in and shop was probably the week I got my inventory, and I did it sort of as a unboxing, drop in and help unbox sort of thing, and then it just stuck, and it has grown over time. Some weeks I'll have 2 people, some weeks I'll have 12. It's not always huge, but the people who come by lots generally, or they bring their mother-in-law who's never been exposed to LuLaRoe, or they bring their coworker who's been watching them wear their LuLaRoe and they're my addicted shopper. And so sometimes it's almost like a personal shopping time. The last drop-in and shop was one of my faithful customers, but she brought her best coworker friend and her coworker friend's mother-in-law, and it was a 25-piece pop-up, you know, which that's awesome for me. And it's worth opening my home and having the risk of nobody show up or having 3 people show up. So consistency, no matter what your results are. I mean, you can track your results and see over time, okay, this obviously is not working for me. I need to try something else, but don't give up too soon. And don't give up just because one week you have none. Because there have been weeks where I might have had none one week, but I think I've always at least had one. So consistency, and then I always post it, you know, like on Instagram, and in my VIP group. And when I'm doing a vendor event, I have flyers. And so I know when because I know my whole month. So I knew at the March 11th Home and Garden Show that I would be having another drop-in and shop the following Saturday. So what am I handing out to people? You want more? You didn't see what you had today? Come to my weekly drop-in and shops. And I would tell them, you know, like you train in your in-home pop-ups to get them into your VIP group. I'm training them to know I'm here. I live on Thurmont, and you can come see me in my home every Saturday, 11 to 1. But you want to be in my VIP group because sometimes that changes. So go to beckyhealinghearts.com/VIP and jump in my group. And those awesome sort of, you know, the beckyhealinghearts.com checkout, beckyhealinghearts/VIP, those things come because I have a blog, and I have a plugin on my blog that allows me to create those. It's called Pretty Links. So that is part of your branding strategy that I'll encourage you to, you know, get some training on. And I am happy to give you, you can search the Socialite Suite on Facebook and get in Brenda Stur's Socialite Suite group, and that's who I used for all of my training with. Blogging boot camp is what I took, and then all of the other trainings there. Does that answer for you guys? Allie, does that answer your questions for marketing? And
so are you creating an event for your drop-in shops, or you're just training all of your followers to know that's what happens on Saturdays for you?
Right. If I were on top of it and I were organized, I would say, yeah, I create an event, but nope. That's part of just keeping my head above water. So,
and to encourage them to have parties at your house, they're getting all your inventory as opposed to you picking and choosing and that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And so I tell them when they're booking a pop-up, and that's part of the whole strategy in direct sales too. You want to say, when do you want to have your pop-up? Not, do you want to host? Because then they can say no, but when do you want to host? I do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays at my house, or I'm willing to come to yours on the weekends. And then if they're like, well, I don't know, I'll say, well, would you rather have all of my inventory or half of my inventory? Because of course I want them to have access to all of my inventory, but sometimes my out-of-home pop-ups are just bigger or just as big as my in boutique pop-ups, and some are smaller. But that goes back to a motivated hostess. So my record hostess it was in my home, because some people think it needs to be out at their house to be as successful or for their friends to show up. But that was in my boutique, and she was just very motivated, and she had friends who bought lots, but also she was very motivated. So you've got to find ways to motivate your hostesses, get them picking out items in advance, get don't get caught up in all of I'll encourage you not to get caught up in all of the different things, ways to incentivize them and that sort of thing, but consistency over time, coaching them consistently, doing the same thing with every hostess. I always message them and say, if you're gonna, I do have a templated text that I send them and ask them to save the image to their phone and then send it individually to the people they most want to see there. And I ask them, when or are you willing and able to do this before the pop-up? Can you do this the day before or whatever? And get a committed yes from them, so that I find those sorts of things are more effective than inviting 500 people in a Facebook event to come to your in-home pop-up. So as part of the coaching, how to have a successful in-home pop-up, I tell them, I do not want you inviting 150 people to the Facebook event, because no one sees it, first of all. And second of all, no one thinks that you really want them there, because you've invited all of your friends, not just the 30 or 40 most important people to you, or 50 or whatever. So, and then I tell them to, I will be creating excitement and information in the VIP or in your event, but they don't know me, they know you. So the more you post, the more successful your pop-up is going to be. So if you can, make it a point to wear your LuLaRoe the week before your party and just snap an outfit of the day picture and pop it into the event leading up to your party, that'll help you significantly. Little things like that to just coach them and encourage your hostesses to get their friends excited.
Yes, and that is so true. Every hostess I've had that's done that has been like one of my top parties.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. Can you talk baby life and home life and LuLaRoe life? What do your kids do when you have events? Oh, Katie. Oh, good question. Okay. So my kids are upstairs, and you might be able to hear them pounding around on the floor, actually. So I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and it really varies. I know my community and I know my hostesses well enough to know, okay, I know their kids are coming, so I know I don't need to hire a babysitter tonight, because my husband also travels for his work, and he is also getting his MBA online, let alone working basically 2 jobs at his job, because he manages about 70 people and works insane hours. So it really, sometimes I'll have it, and Katie, be gracious with yourself, because this is just my passion. Is we do this business to be with our families, right? You do this business to get out of working a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever. So it's messy. I'd love to say I have a great strategy. I have a babysitter who comes Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 9 to 1:30. That's my prime time for getting showered, making a YouTube clip, getting anything done that I can't do. If I want to go out and run errands and do deliveries or see people in person, that's when I do that. So I don't have 2 kids in tow and I look like a hot mess. So if I'm going to go around and, try and build my business organically in person, that's when I do those things. But then I also, in that time, am seeing my counseling clients, because that's when I have blocked out to see my clients. So it's tough. And 2-year-old and pregnant with twins. Katie. Wow. Okay. So you're going to be exhausted with a purpose. I just tell myself all the time, I have such a fire in my heart, and I know that I am where I'm supposed to be. So I am exhausted. I get 4 hours of sleep a night, generally 4 to 6 hours. So I get my stuff done when the kids are asleep. And sometimes Ellie doesn't go to bed until 10 o'clock at night, or Luke's popping awake because he needs to go potty or whatever. It's insane. But because I know I'm where I'm supposed to be, I I manage the mess, and I outsource. So last month killed me because I'm 4 months in and I did not realize my business was going to go like this. I thought, yeah, it'd go and grow, but I did not realize how exponentially fast it was going to grow. So I recruited friends, $10 an hour in clothing, to come help me unbox and help me take pictures. And so anything that does, I say anything, hi Annie, anything that does not require your personality, outsource. I learned you do not outsource putting outfits together. That's your personality. You do not outsource going out and pounding the pavement. You do not outsource live sales. The things that require your personality, you do. The things that you want to micromanage because you want your pictures a certain way, you got to let go of. So, or that you want to see every piece of clothing come out of the box, you can't. If you're going to run a full-on retail shop and move 100 pieces of inventory a week. I mean, I know I have different goals than other girls. And Katie, when you have those babies, be with those babies and don't, your goals are not going to be to sell $20,000 the first 3 months out having babies. So you're setting yourself up for disappointment and a whole lot of chaos and stress if you don't think about your certain life circumstances and what your priorities are. And I guess, I can't judge if that's if that's what you want to do, but you definitely have to have a team of people who are going to help you do that. And you only commit a certain amount of time to doing the personality part that requires your personality. Does that answer, Katie? And home life, I will always tell you, honor and involve your husband if you can, if you're married. That has been some of my greatest success. And when you are stressed and you want to have a breakdown because you sold 3 pieces of clothes and you just moved hundreds of pounds of inventory and you're absolutely exhausted and you feel a failure, you want somebody there who wants you to be where you are and who is supporting you. That can really make or break you. So making sure that you're attuned to the needs of your family and you're willing to put the pause button on your business when your family needs you, even when your business needs you too, trusting the process of family comes first and the business will follow and your community will be gracious with you. So if somebody's sick and you can't get to a live sale or you didn't get their invoice to them in the allotted time that you told them you would or whatever, because you've built those relationships and they know and they trust and they like you, they'll be gracious with you when you're managing home life. Yeah, Katie. And now it's slowing down. Yeah. And that's okay to, you were cruise qualifying and now it's slowing down. So that's, I see no problem with that. I mean, if it's something that you and your husband are really, that's what you want to have happen, you just have to make a plan and a strategy for how are we going to do that if he can jump in and push sales or whatever, but you also can't kill yourself doing this business. So hard on the ego. Yes. Oh, I feel you. That's totally me. Yeah. Well, how about this, Katie? I thought I had cruise qualified. I told my entire community, hey, thanks for helping me cruise qualify. And then I go on and I was $1,000 short. In my amateur as a new LuLaRoe consultant, I don't know how to read reports or factor things in. Went on and did a last push, you guys, I'm only $1,000 away, sell all this stuff, and then I didn't make it. So let's talk about being humbled and yeah, being real. So it is, but right. so I just made up for it the next month and sold double. So it does require a certain personality in this business, you guys, too. You do have to have some sort of work ethic and drive and self sort of motivation. And if you don't, you have to know that about yourself and accept that and find ways to get accountability and get people to push you and to help you be driven in the business to succeed. So
So Becky, I'm still on the queue and I'm kind of thinking as far as like what to do when I do get my inventory as far as like sales for like what to do for sales. What are your suggestions to a beginner how to do your sales initially? Let's say in a week. Like do like a Facebook live sale, like a pop-up sale. How do you start with that?
Yeah, and that really varies by person, and it really depends on what sort of network you have, who's gonna show up if you do an in-home pop-up. For me, I set sort of a big grand opening date that was probably a month out from when I knew my inventory was going to come, because I wanted to have this soft opening time where I did an unboxing party, and I let people come and they shopped as they unboxed, and it was probably, sold 25 pieces. And then I did like a Saturday sort of soft opening the following week. Mind you, I got my inventory December 22nd and I sold $6,000 in my first 3 weeks. So if I can sell over Christmas and New Year's $6,000, you'll be good, Donna. You'll be good. So the drop-in and shops were every Saturday. And then I started taking photos of my inventory, but I did 2 different sort of online events, and then worked my butt off to photograph my inventory, and did an album sale for my people who are out of town before I did my grand opening Becky's Basement Boutique, like the second week of January or something like that.
Okay.
So you need to have, I would encourage you to have multiple things lined out and know that there's no real like necessarily formula that it's really dependent on what your community looks like. Are most people out of town? Is there a large in your community following that people would show up? So it really depends.
Yeah, Becky, I can chime in on this one because my experience is different than most. We were originally from Pennsylvania. We lived there for years, and now we're in Orlando. If I had launched my business in Pennsylvania, I absolutely would have had an in-person launch. Absolutely. And I would have had probably 50 people there. But with us being down here in Orlando, I knew if I attempted an in-person launch, I might have a handful at best, just because our network isn't that big. And a lot of our church friends live really far away from us. And I knew they probably wouldn't make the drive for this unknown brand of clothing because none of them knew what LuLaRoe was all about. So I knew for me, online was the way to go. Now, a lot of my girls have very strong network, and a lot of them chose to do an in-person launch either like right out the gate or within their first week, and that makes sense for them. So like what she was saying, you know like who is in your area and your network, and you'll be the best judge of that. But we can certainly touch on that, but it really is personal preference. For me, I went live to launch because I wanted to train my group to expect me to go live. And that worked out really well for me, but everybody's different.
All right, thanks. I'll figure things out.
Feel free to message Donna. I mean, if you have questions, or reach out to your upline too, because they, I'm sure, are more than willing to kind of give you some strategy and know what to expect. With my girls too, I sit down with the ones here in my community on a weekly basis and just look over and talk about, okay, show me your schedule. What's going to work? I have one who's a full-time attorney. Like, let's look at what your availability is and look at this realistically and practically. I'm a type A, detail-oriented personality. So I can handle those sort of nuts and bolts sort of things. But some people, like my husband, are more like, you figure that stuff out. And, he's very, more the creative and entrepreneurial side that is not looking at the practical, like, let's look at the schedule and see what we have and can do. Any other questions, you guys? I'm going to end the recording and then I'll hang out for just a second if anybody else wants to ask questions.